Okay, so we can resume, and as I told you, we will start coding a little bit, right? So, of course, if you have questions, there are a lot of questions at the end of the course. That is normal, of course. You know all the features you need to pass the exam, and so basically, and you think about how to use them for the exam, and a lot of questions arises. Please come to the lab. I mean, the lab is the best place where we have plenty of time to discuss everything. You can show a lot of things and stay there for tens of minutes and so on, and you can not so many people are coming to the lab, by the way. So I mean, we have plenty of time, I think, for everybody to clarify any doubt. Okay, so there's week number 12. There's some code already, as usual. Okay, last time we see some code here. So in the lecture example, it's already there, and now it's the login stuff. So what we did last week, okay? And we just try to run it. Not sure if I already did it. Maybe I forgot to do that. Week 12, as usual, there's a client. I think I forgot to install the stuff. Yes, but it's fast enough. We can do it now. Week 12 server nodemon. No. npmc nodemon index. Okay, so let's just try the application. Unable to connect. Forgot to start it. Yes. Okay, so this is the application. The usual application. We saw it so many times during the course. Okay? At the moment, nobody is authenticated, right? Last time we implemented the authentication, login. Okay, now Harry is authenticated. You see here in the top right corner. And it can perform some operations. Because here we decided that in this application, everybody, even non-authenticated user, can see the list of answers. Everybody can vote, okay? Authenticated or not authenticated users. I hope so. Yes. Okay. There's some bug somewhere in the code, right? Anyway. I will look for the bug later. Anyway, that's not the point for now. In this application, users can vote anything without being authenticated. In this application, users can perform actions only on their answers, okay? Only if they are authenticated, okay? That's why we disabled the other buttons. But remember, it's not because we disabled the button that the user cannot perform the action. This is just a courtesy, being kind to the user, okay? Because if I enable the button, I send a request to the server must say, well, you are not the owner of the answer. You cannot perform this operation, okay? And today, we are going to implement one further addition of functionality to this application. That means I can delete answers only if I did the two-factor authentication, okay? Since I believe, I mean, just for example, I believe deletion is an operation that gives me a lot of anxiety, okay? So I want to be sure that the user that authenticated is really the user that it claims to be, and so I want to implement the second factor authentication. But just for showing something which is a bit different from the lab you are going to work on next week, I mean, here, there's just one operation that requires the second factor authentication, okay? And I think only some users as well are enabled to perform these operations. just to show you something different from the lab. In the lab, basically, you already saw the text maybe. Tomorrow, you see, the authentication needs to be performed by everybody. And everybody can only see its own list of films. So everybody has a list of films, and it only sees their films. Okay? So it's a bit different from this application, but it's done on purpose. So you have two different examples with two slightly different schemes. Okay? Okay, good. So server, and this is the database schema with the content. And you see that I already added the secret. Okay? That's the secret. And the secret I used is just for convenience. Remember, just for convenience. The one you saw on the slides. Okay? And again, for you as well, for the exam, just use this secret because we don't lose so much time, generating codes and so on. Okay. So, that's one thing. And you see that there are 5 users. Enrico, Luigi, Alice, Harry, Carol. And only 3 secrets. So some users cannot perform second factor authentication, okay? Because the secret is not set. That's a choice, okay? Of course, for the exam, these things will be specified in the text of the exam. Everybody has to do second factor authentication, only a few users, and which users, and so on, okay? For the lab, if I'm not mistaken, I think everybody has to perform the second factor authentication. Okay, so it's a bit easier, let's say. Okay, so, good. We need to implement all the stuff on the server side. You remember the server side? Actually, to simplify things, since as usual we don't have so much time, I already implemented most of the part on the server side. Okay, so there's this base 32 TOTP strategy and so on. You need to install the packages. You see the packages. You need to TOTP strategy. You need to provide a function that gets the user secret, and it gives it to the TOTP strategy for checking it. Okay? But this is just cut and paste from the slides, nothing really new, right? So this is already on the GitHub. And then I, again, copy and paste it from the slides. Is TOTP is just a middleware that does if rec session method TOTP, return next, otherwise missing TOTP authentication, okay? And so we need to decide at a certain point which routes needs to be executed only when the TOTP authentication has been correctly performed, okay? And we said, well, I said now, just a few minutes ago, okay? The route we want to protect is the delete, okay? Oh, I already added it. Okay, good. So we want to allow deletion operations only for users who perform the authentication, but also the second factor authentication. So if the second factor authentication is not being performed yet, we refuse the request before processing it, okay? So this is TOTP. We'll go back to the, what is the middleware here? And it will just return missing TOTP authentication. We are free to do whatever we want with this method. Typically, we want to show it to the user, but I mean, it's like any non-authorized operation. Say what you think is appropriate to the user. So just test this application. Let's try. Okay? So we went to the server asking for doing that operation. I just said missing TOTP authentication. You can see it also in the network tab. Delete 401 response, missing TOTP authentication. We decided to add this requirement on the server side just for practicing. Okay? I think the edit has not no such requirement, like try to edit something. Okay, A, B, C. Let's see if it works. Yes, it works. Okay, so I can decide which routes on the server side requires the TOTP authentication. Okay, not in terms of getting a new code. Okay, this is authorization. It's a more difficult problem that we are not going to see in the course. But at login time, we want to perform the second factor authentication, and then this session is considered more secure, and so I can perform more operation than a user that didn't perform the second factor authentication. Okay, good. So I think there's nothing more to be done on the server side. No, well, we can have a look, but just again, copy pasting of the route. Yeah, the TOTP login. Okay, just as shown on the slides. For the exam, just copy this code is fine. Okay, no problem in copying, no problem about the copying stuff that we said in the beginning of the lecture. Okay, because of course, I mean, you want to have the TOTP, there's no other alternative. Of course, this code will be the same for all users. You might not like this route, you might change the route, that's fine. But, I mean, if you keep it as it is, it's fine. Good. So let's go to the client. That's a more difficult part, okay? In terms of, well, actually, server has more code, but it's mostly copy and pasting, right? Client requires a new view, okay? Requires a view in which we can enter the TOTP code, so a form, right? So, what's the place where we can do this operation in the client? Well, we had, I think, yeah, oops. No, this is for the edit out, right? Out, it's already there. So no. We had the login form, okay? Username, password, error message. I hope I didn't push the wrong solution. Anyway, so login form, username, password, error message, and so on. There's the user stuff, good. And then we create a second form, right? TOTP form, TOTP code. It's a controlled form component, nothing new. Remember the forms? That's a state that gets updated every time you have the on change, okay? On change, set the TOTP code, the event target value, okay? Good. Text is fine. You don't need a password here. I mean, it's supposed to be one time, okay? Somebody likes to have it as a password so you don't see what you type. But I mean, for a one-time password, it's not that problematic, okay? Because just for one time. Apart from what I said before with the slides, okay? That our implementation could be better. But I mean, actually, the library is like this. We cannot do anything. Okay. So how can we show this form? We need to show this form at a certain point. So what's the logic that take us to show this form? Well, when we do the login, we need to decide after the login, depending on the response of the server, if we need to perform the second factor authentication or not. Okay? So let's stay here, log out. Okay? So login, we do the login. And you remember that we get an answer with the post, with the username and password. Okay, the request is here. Password, username. It's a post, API sessions, response, and we get the user ID, username, and so on. And I recommended you to add two more fields, right, in the response. Can do TOTP, which is very useful in this case, where there are users that can and users that cannot. Of course, if all users are required to do TOTP, I would say it could be hard-coded in the logic of the client application. It's fine. So you don't really need the can do TOTP. Because, I mean, if you require everybody to do it, it will always take the user to the TOTP login. Okay, so I mean entering the code. And the other one is just convenience. Okay, is TOTP false? So at the moment, it didn't perform the TOTP. Okay. Afterwards, when we get when we perform the TOTP, this will become true. Okay, in case we reload the application. You remember that at application reload, we have an API that allows us to understand if the user is already logged in or not. If it's not logged in, it says 401, not authorized. Okay, unauthorized. And somebody asked me, well, it writes it in the console. Yeah, it's not a problem. I mean, it's normal. That's the behavior of the console, okay? You cannot do anything. It's fine. But if it's logged in, okay, so we reload the application, the user is logged in, we get, yes, the information about the user, and it's useful to know that this session is not TOTP, okay? It's not no, we didn't perform the second factor authentication on this session yet, okay? Well, actually, this user cannot do the TOTP, right? Can do TOTP false, so that's a bad user, right? Let's have a look at the database. Which user can do the TOTP? Harry. No, actually, it should say true, right? No, it says true. Not sure why it says false. Well, we will see as long when we see the rest of the code. Okay. Let me try with another one. No. Post. No. I hope it's not a bug. Let's see. Okay, I tested the code, as you say at the exam, right? I tested the code, but well, we will see. Okay. Okay, so let's focus on the important stuff at the moment. So the important stuff is we are in the client, we get an answer, okay, from the server, and after the authentication, so we are in app, we were in the route login. So you remember the route, right? Login. So login form if logged in is false, or navigate to / that is the main page of our application where we can operate. Okay. So here we have two choices. I mean, do you want to create a new route? Might be. Free to do that. Well, if you have all users that need to perform second factor authentication, it's fine. Like in case is logged in, you send the user to the route of the TOTP login. If the TOTP login is fine, you send it to /. Okay, good. But in this case, where we have users that need to perform a TOTP, users that don't need to perform TOTP because it's not allowed for them, probably it's better to try to modify this route, keep the same URL /login, and just decide what to show depending on the status that we have for that user. Okay? So if it can perform the TOTP, we will, if it's already logged in, we will show the TOTP form. If it's not yet logged in with the TOTP, and so on. Okay? So my suggestion is try to create a new component, okay, to swap with this login form to decide what to show, because the logic is a bit more complex here. Okay, it's not just so simple like Well, I already performed the authentication, go to the TOTP. TOTP was performed, go to slash. And if not, I mean, just show the component which is associated with that route. Okay, so it's up to you. My solution is just a proposal. Okay, so let's do as usual a bit of copy pasting in the interest of time. So my proposal is to create a new component. So we practice a little bit with creating components as well. Okay, so up here, yes. So I would call it login with TOTP. Okay, that's a component that basically takes, well, as any component, a set of props. If props logged in and user can do TOTP, and if props logged in TOTP, we're fine. Everything has been performed, go to slash. Okay? Else, show the TOTP form because we are logged in, can do the TOTP, it's fine. We go to the TOTP form. Else, so this else is the can do TOTP. So it's logged in, cannot do the TOTP. Well, we cannot do anything more. Just go to slash. Okay? Some operations will be disabled because they cannot do anything else, or she cannot do anything else. That's fine. Okay? If prop logged in is false, well, of course, in this case, we still need to log in. So let's do what we did before. Login form with username and password. Okay? So why did I write a new component? Well, because all this logic has to be written here. Okay? And the code becomes very messy. Okay? Actually, here you can only write a component. That means that actually you should put everything inside a function, call it immediately, and return the component you want. Okay? You can write it in the same in multiple lines, but it becomes very difficult. So let's create a new component. React is made to create components when we need them. So just create a component, no problem. Okay, so let's try to see if it works. I suspect no, because that's the issue with the can do TOTP, but maybe I'm wrong. Login with TOTP. Okay. And now I need to pass all the props that are used. Okay. So of course the TOTP is successful, but also the logged in, which is a state, and user, and the logged in TOTP. Okay, and now we go and see this logged in TOTP. Okay, save. So this logged in TOTP is a state of app again. You can put it into a context if you like. Oh, not yet there. Okay, so we add it. Const logged in TOTP, set logged in TOTP, use state false. Okay. Okay. Set logged in TOTP is not used, so I forgot something, right? I forgot something here. Because this says set logged in TOTP, right? So let me break the line. Set logged in TOTP. Set logged in. Okay. You need to pass a lot of attributes in React. Either you put them into a context or you pass a lot of attributes sometimes. Okay. So now I should be able to see the other form, right? If everything is correct. Let me see. And probably debug because we saw before, So log out. Log in. Okay. Yeah, there's something wrong, right? It's probably on the server side because we saw the response, right? The post says can do TOTP false, which is a bit weird, right? I forgot to commit something probably. So let's check on the server side. Why it says can do TOTP, user secret true false, user. Maybe when I read from the database, allow user secret row secret. So don't forget to add this element here, okay? Otherwise it's undefined and you become mad in debugging. And now I'll become mad because I have no idea where the problem is. So actually there should be a string there, right? So I don't know. User secret. Let's print the rec user here, okay? So console log. I already told you, I mean, when you are debugging, probably the best way to JSON. The best way to print object is converting them in JSON, but just for debugging, okay? Because otherwise you rely on the console log, sometimes prints a lot of stuff, uses less stuff, and so on. Let's see. Okay, so I saved on the server side, so this to restart. Let's see what happens here. So the current, well, this is not authenticated, so it doesn't make that sense. Okay, now give me the false, and let's see what has been printed here. Ah, it's bad. Okay, so I mean it's missing. The secret is missing, right? So maybe it's the database. Maybe I forgot to update the database. Answers, users, salt, password. Yes, sorry. So the secret column is missing, okay? So we are getting row.secret, but it's undefined, okay? So let me see if the initial has the column. No. Ah, sorry. So I forgot to update this the database file, sorry. But it's a good occasion to see how you need to create a new database, because there was a couple of questions about this during the break. So the way in which you create a new database is you open a new program, okay? Oops. DB browser for SQLite. That's the one we recommend, okay? Just because it's free, it's available for any platform, Windows, Linux, Mac, and so on. But in any case, any system that produces a good, a valid SQLite 3 file is fine. I mean, we don't really care. At the exam, I mean, the only thing we might end up doing is checking the content of the database, because sometimes things are not working, and so it becomes natural. Did you store it into the database? What's the name of the column, and so on? And of course, I understand you cannot remember really every single detail, every single line, every single thing, okay? But at least you need to guide us in finding the information. Because if you did it yourself, I mean, you probably have 3-4 tables in the database, 5 maybe sometimes. But I mean, really simple stuff that you join when you query for information, and that's all. Okay, so let's create a new database. So new database. Let's create what's a QADB, right? QADB. Okay, that's in the root, in the home. Save. Now it's empty. Okay. Cancel. I don't want you. I want to define tables and stuff by hand. Okay. So execute SQL. 4th tab. Copy paste the SQL. In every solution, I put the SQL here. Why? So you can create a database as you like. You like an additional field, you just modify this SQL and you run it. Copy. oops, where is the paste here? Execute it, okay? Execute the query. Query successfully, executed successfully, okay? Now write, that's all. Close the program. Take the file, okay? So the file is in the home QADB, overwrite, okay? And let me copy it also in the initial, because when we delete stuff, we need to have the original version, okay? So let's have a look. Users, good, there is the secret column, okay? Let's try again. Okay. So log in. Okay, still not working, probably missing something. Still missing something, but something has changed. Can do TOTP true. Good. Okay. Let's debug what's happening. Okay. So at the moment we go back to the client, right? So in the client we have props. User can do TOTP. User, yes. Let's have a look at the components. Okay. User, what's the user? Can do TOTP, true. This state is the user. Is TOTP false and so on. Okay. And then we have true, false, is logged in TOTP. So can do TOTP is true. Why it doesn't give me the possibility to go there? Oh yes, because you do the login. There's login successful. Okay, set dirty and so on. Let's go to the form. This is the TOTP. This is the login form. Navigate slash. I can't do anything. I cannot do anything if I have an instruction like this. I mean, my component works. If I do slash login, it will work, right? Hopefully. Let's try. Just for testing. I mean, we are not doing these things at the exam, just for testing. No, it's not working because try directs in any case. It doesn't matter. Let's remove this one. Okay. Let's handle the navigation only through the component that we inserted. Okay, we are on a slash login. We perform the login, username and password. We are still there until we navigate somewhere else. Okay, so save, client, stop, start. You never know. Okay, so log out, log in. No, not yet. Sorry. Up is fine. Can do TOTP. What's wrong here? I don't remember. It becomes complex to debug these applications when you have routes involved and so on. But I mean, so take your time, for the submission of the exam. If you wait till the last minute, probably you're not going to make a good work. Okay. Let's see what happens. So slash login. Oh yes, logged in. Navigate to. No, I don't like this instruction. This instruction is already included in the component here. Okay. And of course, logged in means logged in without the TOTP. Okay. This parenthesis fine. Yes, balanced. Yes. Let me try again. So let's slash login. Okay, finally we got it. Okay. Second factor authentication. Now What's the second factor? Take the smartphone. I have an alternative solution. In case you don't have a smartphone, I don't believe, but I mean, everybody has a smartphone nowadays, especially at the Politecnico. But there is also, I mean, just for leaving it recorded and just with the webcam, there is a place on the internet just for testing again. Generate TOTP. Yeah, TOTP generate. So TOTP generator. Okay. So we can discuss this issue. Okay, this secret is not ours. Okay. So we take our secret. Which secret is our secret? The one we have put in the database. So this string, right? So okay, let's copy, paste. Okay, oops. Good. That's a number to be put now. Okay. Of course, you know, sharing your secret with some anonymous website online is not the best thing you can do. Even though you can have a look at the code is running on the client, not sending the secret on the server. But in general, this is not a good way of proceeding. But I want to, you know, leave it recorded for the lecture recordings. Okay? And I want you to show also that this secret changes. Okay? Over time. Default parameter is changing every 30 seconds. Most of the secrets change over every 30 seconds. Okay, half a minute. So we are a bit tolerant about the clock synchronization, and in addition, I told you the library also allows for some secrets in the past and some secrets in the future because of the clock desynchronization between your device and the server device. Okay. Okay. So let's take this number and try. Where's the application? Paste. Validate. Okay. Let's see the response from the server. Post login TOTP. TOTP authorizes. Fine. Okay. Good. And now I can inspect the components. Up. You see, the last state is true, is logged in TOTP. Okay? I could have updated this field as well, but I mean, not really important at the moment. Okay? If you reload the application, I reloaded the application where the user is logged in, so the cookie is in the browser. I go to the server and ask if there is a session currently active for this cookie. You see the get API session current. You see the response? The response says scan.TOTP as before. Is TOTP true? Now it's true. Okay? Because this session is associated with a user that also performed the TOTP authentication. So the second factor authentication. And this information is stored on the server side. Where? In the rec session. Okay? So the rec session on this, no, see on the server, rec session. Here. Okay, in rec session method we wrote TOTP when the when the second factor authentication has been performed correctly. Okay, good. And now you remember that we couldn't delete stuff, right? Let's try. Click. Okay, it disappeared. Only 3 instead of 4. Good. So delete was okay. Status code 200. Everything went fine. Okay, so isOTP checked that rec session method was TOTP. Okay, good. Log out, log in. When I log out, I destroy all the session information, so including the second factor authentication. Okay, so I recreate the session, I log in again with username and password, and if you want the second factor authentication, you have to redo the second factor authentication. Okay? So let's redo the second factor authentication, and let's say this time the code is wrong. Okay? 111111. Validate. Okay, it's up to us to decide what to do. Okay? In this application, I decided that. But if the code is wrong, I just tell the user. Maybe it just mistyped a digit. Might happen, right? So, if I click cancel, I decided to do another thing. That is, proceed without performing the second factor authentication. Okay? Let's try. Cancel. Okay? No second factor authentication. I did the authentication, the normal authentication. You see the username and so on. Let's have a look at the component and the content of the state. Can do TOTP true, so we did the authentication, but we didn't perform the TOTP authentication. Okay? So this is actually, I mean, not remembered on the server because we didn't do anything on the server in addition to the authentication. Simply, the server knows that no additional authentication, the second factor authentication, has been performed. So it will, as in the beginning, negate, I mean, say no to the operation, the delete operation. Okay? So this is an example of handling a user where if it has the possibility that it can perform the second factor authentication, can do a certain set of actions. Otherwise, we let the user do the actions that can be done without the second factor authentication. Okay? It's a choice depending on the application. In the text of the exam, we will say if authentication is always required, or there's a list of public information, and then if you perform authentication, you cannot modify things and so on. And if you want to perform some actions, you need a second factor authentication, or any user should have a second factor authentication, and so on. Okay? This will be given because it's a requirement of the application. Okay? It's not about programming. It's about what we want the application to do. We want to handle fields, we want to handle answers, and so on. Okay? Okay, good. So, I would like to show a couple of more things. Okay? One is, you see that here we have signed in as Harry. Okay? So, the username, no, actually not the username, the name, the first name. Okay, username is inside. It's here, I think. It's the email, right? Username. Okay, as we show the fact that the user is authenticated, that's a good place. I mean, just for us to simplify debugging and for the exam, I mean, even if it's not explicitly required, I would say, almost never explicitly required. It's good for you to show if the user has performed the second factor authentication or not. Okay, it's just a state in React, so it's so easy. So we go to the header. I think it's the header. No, it's not here. Where is the header? No, it's not named header, sorry. Well, let's have a look at what's the name. So we are in, no, that's a server. We are in app layout. Okay, in layout, my header. Okay, that's the name. Okay, in my header, as you show, signed in as, probably you could say signed in, and if logged in TOTP is true, second factor authentication as. Okay, so just as an example. Okay, my header, yeah, it's there. Send in props is logged in TOTP. Yes, so we write a string to FA, otherwise empty string. Okay? Yes. You can concatenate strings, you can write the strings as you like. I mean, is it correct? Yeah, it seems so. I think so, hopefully. No, I need to do this. A bit different from here, right? Okay, to make the dollar work, okay, a template feature. But I mean, these are just JavaScript details, right? I need to pass the props is logged in TOTP, or no, logged in TOTP, I think that's the name, right? Logged in TOTP. Okay, so let's go back. My header, where is the my header? Here. So, logged in TOTP, props, logged in TOTP. Okay, so just pass the properties here. Logged in TOTP. Here, that's the app component, so it's a state here, it's not a prop. Save. Let's perform the TOTP. Okay, so you can have a look at the website 223450. If you don't trust me, maybe you can have a look. Okay, the mobile phone says the same. If you scan the code that we have on the slides, 223540. 223540. Validate. Okay, you see here, second factor authentication, top right. Just for our convenience. So it's so convenient. I mean, costs so less. So small effort that is probably worth trying. Okay. Okay, and last thing I want to show you, yes, is, well, you see that we cannot delete and edit anything for the answers that belong to other users, okay? In the sense that we disable the buttons, okay? There is still the button that can vote, okay? But because everybody can vote, regardless of the authentication status, but, I mean, the delete and edit are still allowed both if you authenticated with or without the second factor authentication, okay? So just as a convenience for the user, since we learned to React, and it's so easy to change the aspect of the user interface depending on a state, disable what it cannot be done by the user on the basis of the state, okay? So if the user has not performed the second factor authentication, we will disable the delete button, okay? That we know it's an action that will be refused by the server, okay? So you see now it's second factor is no, we perform the logout, right? Oh yeah, one more thing. You need to remember that you need to reset the state when you log out, okay? Because now the state in the app says you can, but the server will not get the things wrong, okay? If I try to delete now, I log it out and then log it in without the TOTP, you see it doesn't work, okay? But this is just an issue of the client. You need to remember that when you perform an action on the server, you need to keep the client state synchronized. Okay, so where is the place? Well, the place is on the logout, right? On the logout, do logout. Well, let me do it after. Set logged in TOTP false. Okay? As we do for the logged in and user. Okay? It's a request that we do to the server. The server will execute the request. We need to keep the state, the client state in sync with the server. Okay? Good. Okay, so let's try. Login. Okay, now it requires a second factor because it recognizes the fact that we didn't do it. We can say cancel, it's fine, okay? In fact, it doesn't say second factor here, but we still need to disable this one. I mean, this is just passing props around, okay? Not that difficult. I mean, we have a bit of time, so we try. And then I think it's almost done. I will check. But so how do we pass these props around? Well, we have this set login TOTP false. Let's pass these props around. So let's give a meaningful name. Okay, user. Let's say we need to make the disable true. So disable TOTP actions. Right? What's the name I gave here? Answer route. Route. Oh, I didn't write it. Disable TOTP actions is true if the is logged in TOTP is false. So it's the not of that condition. Is logged in, no, logged in TOTP. In TOTP. Okay? Disable TOTP actions. So now it's answer route. Answer route needs to pass it to the answer table. Disable TOTP actions. Props disable TOTP actions. We go to answer table. Okay, disable TOTP actions. Props disable TOTP actions. Okay, and now we have answer row. Finally, oh, answer action. Disable user actions. Disable TOTP actions. Props disable TOTP actions. Okay, disable user actions. And now we have the delete, right? So disabled props disable user action or props disable TOTP actions. Okay, let's see if I got it right. Yes. Okay. Log out, log in with the second factor. What's the second factor? 403504. Paste. Okay, second factor, you see the button. Okay? Just a matter of passing props around to enable or disable elements in your user interface. Okay, this is what React is great. Does the thing very well. Okay, thanks to the state and the fact that it updates the interface according to the state. Okay, so here well, we save everything. I mean, we are almost done, right? So let me think if there's something I forgot. That's my solution. Select for compare with our solution. A little bit of difference somewhere. Probably we have done, yeah, I didn't even implement this feature in the end. Oh yeah, the checkout. I forgot the checkout. So when you load the information from the server and you just reloaded the application, you have a cookie which is valid, and so there's a session established. You need to set the condition of the TOTP, so the state, according to what you get from the server. And then let's say what I missed here. Yes, we fixed this, and the rest is just props passing around, I think. So yes, just change the order. So let's go back to the use effect here. Okay, so if user is TOTP, set logged in TOTP true. Okay, or if you trust the fact that the is TOTP is always present, I mean just set logged in TOTP user dot is TOTP. Okay, it's up to you. I mean really not that much difference. Okay, and so when there is a second factor authentication, you reload the application, you will still see the second factor authentication. Here everything is updated according to the state. Okay, so this last state is true, everything works. Okay, let me commit a solution so you have it before I forget. Also the database, right? So I think out component. Yes, these 5 files, right? Okay. So in the meanwhile, you can think if you have further questions. Otherwise, I will give you lecture. Okay, so I mean, this is a very simple way you can use to commit your code for the exam. Okay, you load it in Visual Studio Code. Actually, first you need to clone the repository using your key, as you usually handle anything you want to publish on GitHub. Okay, and then when you are finished, you commit everything. Okay, you do push. Okay, now it asks me the key, and everything should be pushed. Make sure that everything has been pushed correctly, okay? Because for the exam, we cannot do anything in case, you know, the day after the deadline, we download stuff and you realize, well, it was not uploaded correctly. Just go there and download the stuff. Look at the web interface. The web interface never fails, okay? If you did a modification, it doesn't show up in the web interface, it means that it's not being pushed correctly, okay? So let me check. You see the last commit, that's already a good sign. Okay, time now, source, up, and so on. Okay? Symbols, I don't know what they are. Okay. So make sure you check what you submitted. Okay? And so have a look at the files that we published for the exam. The exam is very close. Okay, so especially GitHub classroom instructions. There will be lab tomorrow. If you have any questions and so on, I mean, we are glad to answer. There will be another lab next week. Okay, so next week the exam will be already published. The link for the first submission will be already published. You can already use it. Create your repository, and then if you don't submit, we don't really care. I mean, it's GitHub's problems if you create a repository. It's not ours, right? I mean, we don't even waste the space. I mean, we only consider the repositories with the final tag. Okay, so of course you're free to test and do anything you like to try to do a little bit of submission. Okay, we don't really care about the commits you have. We only care about the last, I mean, not the last commit, the commit with the final tag, which is typically the last, okay? Because when you want to submit, you don't do anything else afterwards. So if you have any questions, just ask during the lab. That's the best time probably, or during the break after the lectures and so on, okay? Have a look at the things before the course finishes, so we don't, I mean, we still have a good time to discuss things, okay? And also I would say, no, where is the, yeah. I mean, for sure the first exam will be very busy in terms of submissions. That's the history, that's what history tells us. So think if you want to wait quite a lot of time for your oral exam, or maybe you want to come at the second exam, okay? I know sometimes it's not your choice, but I mean, this year, I mean, the second exam is not so far away in time, right? So it's not the end of July, I understand. Everybody wants to go on vacation, me too, okay? But, you know, if you have a good balance between the first exam and second exam, I think it's beneficial for everybody. But I mean, of course, it's up to you. I mean, you're free to do what you think is good for you. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer. Otherwise, tomorrow there will be my colleague in the lab. Okay, you already have the lab. Where is the lab? No, that's last year's, right? Which one is this one? Yeah, it's 2004, sorry. 2015. Okay. So, tomorrow, the lab is already there. I will publish the next lab as well. So you want to practice now, you have everything. And next Thursday, we will only have a brief discussion to recap all the issues about security, review of the lab solution with my colleague. And then week afterwards, there will be just one lecture because the 2nd of June is holiday in Italy. And we will try to develop a solution, okay, for an actual exam, okay? So I will publish the text of this exam. I mean, it was an actual exam, a real exam that happened in the past. Actually, not in the cybersecurity course, but it doesn't really matter. And then I will not publish the solution until the lecture, but just after the lecture, okay? And it was a solution from one of your colleagues, okay? I would say a very good one. I mean, the solution maybe is a bit even too complex sometimes, but you know, just to give you a rough idea of what can be done, okay? And but we will discuss the possible solutions together. So have a look at the text of the exam before coming, because we can discuss you know, different approaches to set up the APIs, the views, and so on in the solution, okay? Of course, we cannot discuss this solution for the actual exam, but if there are questions about the text, we will try to address them, okay? Okay, I think that's all, even too much.